last part, the conclusions. So I guess the big question that many people have here, which tool should I use? Now, we've seen a lot of them. What makes sense? Well, there's actually one very easy answer to that. It depends. It depends on a lot of things. It depends on which software that you want to use and install, on which system you want to do that, or maybe there's multiple systems, multiple partitions in the same cluster, multiple clusters within the VSC or within Europe, and depending on the answers there, may need to pick different options. It also depends on whether you just want to play around a bit with the software to test it, or if you want an installation that you can rely on that's performing well, performing correctly, and that you can use for a long time. Those are very different things, of course. Also, to what extent is the performance of the installation, is that important to you or not? That maybe ties back to the previous point, but that's also an important factor. And also how experienced you are. So if you try something and it doesn't work, are you willing to figure out how to fix that? Or do you just throw your hands up and say, okay, I'll try something else if it doesn't work? And also, related to that, how much time are you willing to spend to set things up until you're happy with what you get? So all of these aspects are important for picking a tool. Now, that's maybe a bit of a lazy answer, so let's try and do a high-level comparison across pretty much everything we saw today in various aspects. So I'm comparing in the columns are the different tools or the different installation methods we've seen. In the rows are a couple of aspects that we think are important that you should take into consideration. So how much software is supported by those tools? What's the user experience like? So how easy is it to use those tools? What about the performance of the installations you get? How good is that? How reproducible are those installations? So if you have to do the same installation again, how likely is that to succeed? How much time would it take to install the software that you need when using these tools? What about the testing? Have these installations been tested or not? Can you be somewhat confident that they'll actually work? What about the storage in terms of gigabytes or in terms of number of files? What's the learning curve? So how difficult is it to start working with these tools? And then to what extent can you get help within the VSC context when using them? So let's go through them one by one. In the central software stack, it's mostly positive, I would say. We pay a lot of attention to performance. There's quite a lot of software already, part of the central software stack. It's just module load and you can start using it. So hopefully that's a very good user experience. Reproducibility, once the software is there, it stays there, at least for the lifetime of the cluster, or as long as we stick to the same operating system, you can make sure the software will not disappear. The time required to install the software, if the software that you need is there, is just loading the module, so there's no waiting time. If it's not there, you can submit a request, but then you may have to be patient because we want to do a good job at doing a central installation. I think in many cases, and also because that's an attention point in EasyBuild, which is used to manage the central software stack, the testing of that software is done quite well. There's definitely room for improvement, but we are keep paying attention to that. In terms of storage, it's lots of small files, but since it's a central software stack, it's not in your account, so it's not really an issue for you. Learning curve is hopefully very low. You discover modules, you load modules, and you can start using the software. And of course, since the central software stack is managed by the VSC support team, you can get very good support for it. If something doesn't work, it's our job to figure out how to fix it. If you put easy next to this, it's mostly similar. Today, there's a lot less software in easy than you will find in a central software stack, so that's definitely a working point for easy. The reproducibility is even better because you can get the exact same software stack across different systems. So even if you go from tier 2 in Ghent to tier 1 in Brussels very soon, or even to other European systems, you'll find the exact same software. Time required to install software is the same argument as the central software stack. Testing of installations, I would say, is even a bit better because we also test the installations across different systems. So we're more confident that things are working the way they should. And getting help in the VSC, at least from VUB and UGent today, you can probably get some help if something isn't working as expected. The other sites, not yet, but hopefully that may come soon. We'll see. Then looking at containers, here you already see maybe a less positive picture across the whole thing. The performance of the installed software is not necessarily bad, but if you download a random container image, it's unlikely that it's going to be optimized for your particular CPU. So that's definitely something to keep an eye out for or to be aware of. Testing of installations, I would expect it's a lot less tested. Somebody produces an image and maybe they have tested it for themselves, but they've probably not tested it across different systems. So that's probably less positive there. In terms of storage, it's good since, at least with Aptainer images, it's a single image file, so no huge amount of files. But these files can be quite big. Gigabytes is not an exception, so that's maybe not super positive. The learning curve, maybe this is very critical, especially after Sam's presentation. I think it's not that difficult to use. There's some weird stuff going on with binding paths into container images, or especially when you're doing MPI, you have to be careful. So maybe not entirely trivial. And I think overall you can get pretty good help within the VSC if you're playing with containers. Conda then, well, the things that are different are maybe worth mentioning. Reproducibility, especially over months or years. It's supposed to be reproducible, but I've heard many other things about reproducing environments that it's maybe not practically that easy to do. In terms of storage, you'll have many files in your VSC account, and that can lead to practical problems. So that's definitely a pain point when using Conda. Getting help, as Steven and Maxime mentioned, on some sites, especially in Leuven, I think they will be happy to help you with Conda problems. And Ghent will probably try to steer you away from Conda as soon as you run into any trouble. With language package managers, it's mostly the same thing. Supported software is a bit less positive because you're stuck to that language. If you're doing pip or virtual environments, you're essentially only installing pip packages. So anything beyond that is going to be difficult. For the rest, it's mostly the same. Installation is maybe a bit quicker than with Conda, but just because you're installing fewer packages. Same things for the storage requirements. You're installing less files, so it's not going to be as bad as it is with Conda. With manual installation, well, you can install hopefully any software manually, but it's not going to be a pleasant ride, as Cynthia showed. So in terms of user experience, it's probably not that positive. You'll need quite a bit of experience to fix problems that you may run into. Reproducing, again, if you're careful, you can probably reproduce things, but in practice, it's going to be a bit of a nightmare. It's going to take you a long time, especially if you're running things manually yourself, configure, make, testing whether things work, doing all the dependencies. It's going to take you a lot of time. Learning curve, yeah, you'll need quite a bit of expertise to get things right and to get things fixed if you run into a problem. And then EasyBuild and Spec help you with many of the problems that you see with the manual installation. I both gave them 3 thumbs up, mostly because I didn't want to be partial here. They come with support for thousands of software packages, both of them, and you can add support for additional software in both cases yourself if you're willing to put in a bit of effort. The performance is a strong attention point in both tools. The time required to install software, I gave this a little bit more negative for EasyBuild, because EasyBuild typically installs what we call fat installations with lots of bells and whistles. So it typically also takes longer. We also do testing of the installation during the installation procedure. So again, it can take a bit longer when you're installing something with EasyBuild. Then yeah, that comes back to the next point. I think we're doing a better job in testing of software than they are doing in Spec. And in terms of getting help within the VSC, since all the VSC sites use EasyBuild, it's going to be a lot easier to get help with that than it is with Spec. So I hope this is a somewhat objective comparison between these two. So this gives you like the full picture of everything we covered today. And hopefully this helps you in picking something, or at least knowing where to start experimenting with or playing with. So to wrap things up, getting your software installed can be messy, but there's lots of tools that can help you. I think it's important to try and make an informed choice, pick a tool, and then try to stick to that tool. As long as it's a good match for your particular use case. If you're mixing things from different ecosystems like pip and top of Conda, or pip and top of EasyBuild, or whatever, be careful at least, or use tooling like VSC VEnv or VSC R project to help you with that. Definitely take some time to make sure you understand what the tool does, how it works, read the documentation, check the options, follow a tutorial. That's going to be important. Actually, things like ChatGPT are quite helpful with these tools because they're mostly text-based and there's lots of information available about them on the web. So typically, at least for basic things, you can get pretty good help from ChatGPT. And if that doesn't help you, there's usually big communities behind each of these tools that can help you. So don't hesitate to get in touch with the community, try to find a Slack or whatever they're using to answer questions and try to get some help. And if you're stuck with something, you can always contact the VSC team. Worst case, you'll get an answer like, we're also not sure, but usually we can at least give you some pointers and maybe even a full answer to whatever problem you're hitting. And this is just, as the last slide, a reminder for the hands-on sessions we have on Thursday. So you can still register for those if you're interested. If you want to get some pointers or at least a kickstart into figuring things out for your particular use case, this could be a good starting point. And with that, I think we can wrap up. Are there any additional questions in the room or in the chat on Teams? Or is everybody dead tired after learning about a dozen different tools? Okay, in any case, if there are further questions, you know where to find us. Each of the VSC support teams is definitely willing to answer any questions you have about your specific use case. And then I hope this was useful. All right, thank you. Yeah, Sam.
So we'll probably also send you some kind of evaluation form, so you can give us tips how to improve this session. So maybe we can do this next year again.
Yeah, please, when you get the survey, take some time to fill it out, give us ideas, suggestions, and be honest. The survey will be anonymous, so if you think this was a total waste of time today, do let us know.